So it is all about the space. The energy is in the dielectric, and this is the part I love to say most. The energy in a circuit travels through the plastic and fiberglass, not through the copper. Really? Yes, really. The copper steers the energy and makes it a waveguide. The copper traces that we route steer the energy from point A to point B. That's what the transmission line does. That's where the copper comes into play. It's a waveguide. What is this? It's a waveguide. If you hook up, and you wouldn't do it in this manner, but if you hook up a power source, let me say this correctly. If you hook up a power source to this metal tube, this rectangular tube, and if that power source has a signal whose frequency, whose half wavelength is equal to the distance x around that tube, you will reject all frequency of signals other than the primary frequency, whose half wavelength is x, and that energy at that frequency will create a standing wave in that tube, and the energy will travel from one end to the other. This is a waveguide also. This is a substrate integrated waveguide. People do this these days. This has been common practice for about 5 or 6 years now in a lot of types of circuit boards, where they really need to channel energy. Notice they have widened the trace out and grounded it, attached it to ground with lots of ground vias. And oh, by the way, a case in point, years ago I got into an argument with an RF engineer who said, no, you have to plate the edge of a board between the ground planes if you want to contain the fields. And I contended to him that it was wrong. You don't have to. If you get vias close enough together, you will effectively have a wall of vias that look like solid copper. That's exactly what they're doing here. This is a waveguide. It's integrated into the substrate of the circuit board, but it's still a waveguide. This is what the fields look like that are traveling through that waveguide. And you'll notice that the microstrip portion of this that's feeding the waveguide, the fields look very similar. They have a different shape. They're not as well contained, but you get the point. Both sides of this transmission line are a waveguide. The trace routed next to a plane on the next layer of the board is a waveguide just as effective, although it doesn't contain energy as well, but just as effective as the substrate integrated waveguide. All traces on circuit boards relative to their return path form a waveguide. The energy travels through the plastic, it's steered by the trace.